Hey guys, welcome to a brand new Comic Club Read and Review series. Today we are going to be starting a brand new volume and a new issue 1. I'm going to be going through issue 1 of Die Volume 1 Fantasy Heartbreaker. You can see that it's in wrapping. It's actually a second-hand book that I bought, but it's the first one I've ever received in wrapping. I managed to get this from silveracre.com, so give them a look if you're looking to get some second-hand or cheap comics. This is in very good quality, so I will definitely be buying from them again. By the way, this isn't a sponsored thing by them. I just like them very much. So yeah, we are going to be reading this book. It is 5 issues long, so this series will be 5 episodes long, and I'm just generally impressed by the cover initially. I haven't looked into this book, I haven't read this book, but all I've done is read the blurb and I'm very much looking forward to it. So what I like about this from the cover tells you a lot straight away, but only if you know certain things, okay? So me, being a bit of a role-playing nerd myself, especially with Dungeons and Dragons, you will know that this shape here, that's the shape of a 20-sided die unfolded. Okay, so seeing that straight away lets me know that it's got something to do with role-playing, especially if it's got the word fantasy in the title of the volume, Fantasy Heartbreaker. And then at the back, you can just see a little start of a dice there, I think, an unfolded dice. It's got 1, and then 2, 3, and 4, but very faded out. So this, in the future, might get larger and longer and bigger, which would be quite cool for continuity. And yeah, I think that's really cool. So straight away, if you know those things, you'll be able to tell this is an RPG-related book. So this has been published by Image, and it's been written by Kieron Gillen. Now, if you watched my last series on Once and Future, that was also written by Kieron Gillen. So if you're a fan of that, then hopefully you'll be a fan of this. I'm hoping that I'll be a fan of this. It's been, let's see, I've got it written down. So writer was Kieron Gillen. The artist is Stephanie Hans. Letterer is Clayton Cowles. Designer Ryan Hughes. And editor Chrissy Williams. So those are the people who were involved in creating this book. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and read the blurb now, just so you know what this book is about. Okay, so in the 90s, 6 teenagers disappeared into a fantasy role-playing game. Only 5 returned. Nearly 30 years later, these broken adults are dragged back to discover the game isn't finished with them yet. Kieron Gillen and Stephanie Hans team up with a comic where fantasy gets real. This book collects 1 to 5 issues of this critically acclaimed series. Short and sweet there. Getting a lot of Jumanji vibes from that. So it sounds like... 6 teenagers go in. Sounds like something really bad happens to the first... to one of the teenagers. And then 30 years later, they get dragged back in for something that we don't know yet. Let's see. So I'm just going to go ahead and read this. Oh, one other thing I wanted to talk about was at the side here. I'm not sure you can see it. Hopefully you can. You've got the word die, and then you've got all these symbols, and they look like little dice. But I'm wondering if they mean anything later on in the stories. Otherwise, I'm not sure why they would put them there like that. But hopefully we'll be able to find out later on why they're there. But enough of the introduction, enough of the cover and the blurb and all that. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to read this right now, give you a live, honest, genuine review of the first issue of Die Volume 1 Fantasy Heartbreaker. So, here we go. Well. Brilliant start. For an RPG nerd like me, this was cool. And for anyone else who likes that kind of stuff, you'll enjoy the references, and the introduction to it, and the imagination is cool. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. It starts off in 1991, and we meet a character called Dominic and his sister Ashley. It's his 16th birthday, and they go to their friend Solomon's house, who decides to throw him a what does he say? Throw him a birthday party, as in a role-playing party, a party of people playing Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of thing, a birthday party. So everyone turns up at Solomon's house, and this is where you meet the 6 teenagers. What are their names? You got Dominic, who's also known as Ash. That's his nickname. Angela, Chuck, Matt, Isabel, and Solomon. So those are the 6. So what happens is Solomon has kind of designed this RPG game, and he basically sells it to the teenagers as, you have no idea how good this will be. This is fantasy for grown-ups. And at that point, all of the teenagers are hooked, and he brings out this wonderful wooden box with a velvet cushion, and there are 6 dice sitting inside. There was a D4, a D6, a D10, D12, D20, and a D8. I think I'm missing, a D8 as well. So basically, he shows them all the dice, but then he says, go ahead and make your characters. And so these are the characters that they've decided to make. Okay, so someone's gone for a diplomat with teeth, who's a cross between Cleopatra and Machiavelli. So then Solomon is kind of like the dungeon master of this, the DM, that he's in charge, and he decides to give her the D4, and he goes, you're the dictator. Matt is a magical warrior, turning emotions into power, and he goes, cool, you can be the grief knight, you can get the D8. And Angela says, I'm a cyberpunk, and he goes, cool, you're Neo, D10, that's what you get. Isabel is some kind of atheist with gods for pets, and he goes, cool, Godbinder, D12. Chuck says that he just picked some random stuff, and he goes, of course you are, you're a fool. You can get the entirely normal D6, and then at the end, Solomon then chooses the D20, and he becomes the Grandmaster. I'm not sure if I said at the start of that, Dominic said that he was the diplomat with teeth. And then, cool. So then Solomon gets the D20, and he basically says, I'm the master, and everyone's like, ooh, scary, whatever. And he goes, someone makes a reference to getting 1 dice, and he goes, that's not how you say it. It's die. And then everything goes black. 2 hours later, Solomon's mother comes up to the bedroom. All the kids are gone. And then it goes from 1991 to 1993, where all of a sudden these kids just appear in the middle of the road. But now there's 5 of them, and Angela, Dominic's sister, has only got 1 arm. And this car drives to them in the dark in the road. She was like, "Oh my God, you're the Stafford 6, but there's only 5 of you. Who's missing? And wait, where's her arm?" And then she's like, "I can't say." So obviously something hugely traumatic happens. Then we skip forward 25 years, where it's again Dominic's birthday. And obviously this whole thing has traumatized him. This whole party was for him, for his 16th. And now he's in his, how old is he now? He's in his 40s. He's like 41 years old. And it's his birthday again. He's got a wife, and she knows the importance of him not wanting any presents. He doesn't want to be reminded of anything. And then Solomon's mum comes to the door and says, "Where's my son? I just want to bury him before they bury me. Help me, give me all the information." He's like, "I can't say anything." He won't say anything. He doesn't want to say anything. And then he meets up with his sister Angela at the pub, and there's a joke relating to her arm, and basically her job is a coder, and he goes, with a coder for games, and he asks her, like, how can you do such a thing? And she's like, by typing very slowly, because she's only got one arm. And then so they're having a chat, they're chilling out, having a glass of wine, and someone from behind the bar says that, "Oh, there's a parcel here for you," and it says "Happy Birthday" on it, doesn't say from who, and he opens it up, and it's the brown nice box with a velvet inside, and he opens it up, and inside is the D20, the dice that Solomon had, and it's covered in blood. And he's like, "Oh God, like, I can't believe I've got this." He runs outside to a tree, throws it down the floor, and goes to crush it, but doesn't in the end. He goes to crush it with a rock, but he can't bring himself to do it, and he decides to get the gang back together, pretty much. So we end up going to Chuck's house. Chuck is rich now because he made a film called Portal of Pain, and there's a kind of little poster in the background, and it looks very fantasy, and it feels like it might refer to their experience to wherever they went. Portal of Pain, and is kind of him, is his way of dealing with it. He made a film of this traumatic experience that happened to him. They lost a friend. One of their friends lost an arm. Who knows what they could have gone through. And they all get together in the house. Dominic decides to show them the dice, and the dice this time is glowing. It floats into the air. Everything turns pixelated and kind of drags everyone in to this world. And by world, one of the pages here, I'll put it in the arty part. You can see it there. It's basically all of these characters are kind of like comets coming down into a D20 shaped planet, which I think is a very cool idea, very creative. And it goes from I'll see. So you see how let's see how dark it is, how gloomy it is. It goes from that to then this very colourful. We got some light colours, some reds, into this fantasy world, and then all of a sudden you see all of their characters. I'm going to put this in the arty part, so keep watching for that. And how they describe themselves on the 16th birthday is pretty accurate to how they're depicted here. The thing that surprised me most was, I think Dominic decided for a female character, but everyone else has gone for like their genders, and then it all we just kind of like discover a little bit of how their characters look and what they do and how they act, and it becomes a little bit of an argument between Dominic and Isabel, saying, like, why are we here? Why did you drag us here? Sol isn't alive. You just brought us here on a fool's errand kind of thing. And all of a sudden, the D20 starts to float in the air and shoots towards somebody. And this person says, "You're wrong, Izzy. He's alive." And they say, "Solomon?" And he goes, "Yes." And basically what happened was the Grand Master of this world had trapped Sol, tried to break him and make him hand over his 20-sided dice, but he resisted and he escaped. And there was a huge long war, but Solomon finally won. And he is now the Grand Master. And the final page is this creepy looking guy in a hood. He's got bandages around his eyes, but he's got holes for his eyes, and it looks like what he's done is put the 2 D20 dice into his eyes as his eyes, and then that's the end. But he basically says, "You're not leaving until you finish the game. So there's a lot more. There's a lot more to go through. We're going to go through the ratings now at the moment. But before I do, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, share it with your friends, because there's going to be 4 more episodes for this series, and hopefully you can share it around to anyone you think that will enjoy it, and they'll share it too, and we'll just become a nice comic club community enjoying all these books. Okay, I'm going to go through the ratings now. So we're going to go through story, art, and gripability. Okay, gripability is one I only do for the first issue to show if I am into it or not. But I bet you can guess what I am there. I'm just going to say right now, gripability, yes, gripped. I'm in, definitely. Okay, for the story, really good way to introduce it. There's a bit of a prologue, introducing how this whole thing happens, and then you kind of get straight away, you get the aftermath of it. But even though the kind of prologue is 10 pages long, something like that, 10-12 pages long, you get a lot of feeling and emotion in that, and I like that. But this is 25 years later, that part, it then really shows you the impact that whatever adventure these guys went on, how much it kind of affected Dominic and some of the others, and especially like Solomon's mum. So it's not just affecting the direct people, it shows that it's affecting the other family members as well. But it was really good to... This book was really good at kind of pushing the story forwards and just getting you up to speed pretty quickly, while still doing things quickly, if you know what I mean. So it's good how you've gone from the characters being teenagers to how them being older now. Yes, they look different, but you can still tell who's who just from that initial thing at the very start. And then we've got them going into this world. I don't know what it's called yet. I don't know if it has a name. I'm going to call it D20 World for now. And it just looks really cool. It's basically a setup story. I think I really enjoyed all of it, but there was a lot to get in, and I think what is going to happen is that I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 because there was a lot of setup, and it kind of pushed into getting into D20 World before the end of the issue, and I think it's a very good setup, and I think the next issue, that's when the story will really start to get into things. The reason I give it 7, I'm tempted to go to 6.5, but I'm going to give it 7 because it's gone from everyone being together, someone dying, and then someone coming back to life or not dying within the space of one issue. They maybe could have drawn that out a bit more into 2 or 3 before they revealed that he's alive. But I've already read the first issue. Maybe there's a better reason for this. Maybe there's a good thing, a good reason why they've done it this way. But there's only one way to find out, and that's to read on. But based on an initial read on issue 1, I'm going to give it 7 out of 10. Now for art. Art is really cool. Typically not my style, not the style I prefer to read, but because at the start it seems to be very chalky, I think that's the word, just pastel-y, that kind of thing. But then later on, it gets to be a bit more detail. But it's done very well. The colours, the way that it is drawn, there's not many not many lines. You know, if you know what I mean. There's not many outlines. It's just ink. You know, it's just colouring. Not very many outlines in the book. So maybe that's why I'm not used to this style, because it's just colour. But yeah, once it got into the RPG land, the D20 world, the art for me became very cool, and I was very invested in the art. I was really looking into each panel, being like, what can I see? What kind of world are we in? Where are we? And I'm really hoping to find out more, because in this initial part it doesn't really show you a lot. It's just a very like sandy area with some pillars and just very basic stuff like that. So I'm hoping the further we get into this book, the more of this world we're going to see, and the more detail, and the more we're going to learn about it, and things like that. So art again, I'm going to give that 7 out of 10. But like I said earlier, I am gripped. I'm into this. I really want to read on, purely for the fact it's got Jumanji vibes. I've loved all of the Jumanji films, and it's got that RPG kind of thing going on. So I'm really looking forward. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's abilities, especially Angela. She's very cyberpunk, and Isabel has, what she say? She has gods for pets and things like that. And especially with Chuck, he said he kind of just put loads of stuff together, and he's put down as the fool, but we don't actually know anything about his character, so maybe we'll be surprised by that. And it'll be very interesting to see what Solomon can get up to now that he has 2 D20s in his eyes. Maybe the number of sides on the dice denote how powerful someone is. I'm not sure. We'll have to see purely just by reading on. But that's it for me. We're going to go onto the arty part for now. I'm going to show you some panels that I really liked in this book, and then we'll move on. Okay, that's been it for me. This has been Volume 1 of Die Fantasy Heartbreaker, and we've read Issue 1. If you want to come back next week, we will be going through Issue 2. But before you go, please make sure you subscribe, like the video, press the notification bell, share it with your friends, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram @ScottsShelf. Cool, perfect. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.